Something I've said multiple times on my channel before is that fans of retro games are often fans of modern games as well, and I'm no exception to this. But with that said, I do look at modern games a little bit differently, and what I mean by that is when I go to buy them, I ask myself the question, how is this game going to age? Is it something that's going to matter? Is it going to feel outdated going in the future? Is it something that I'm actually going to want to play again? Now, there's a lot of different reasons for why I do this, but I think the main thing it comes down to for me is I want to play something that feels timeless. Now, obviously, playing retro games, those games have already been proven to be timeless. Their reputation is what it is. They've had all these years for their reputation to be established, but with modern games, you just don't know. However, there are some signs that can point this out and some things that you can pay attention to give you a good hunch as to whether or not the game is going to be considered a classic in the years going forward. And one of the biggest indicators to me, what I look at, is how reliant the game is to being connected online. Because if it relies on being connected online, then it's relying on servers. And no matter how popular a game is, those servers are getting shut down at some point. So then what we're left with is this weird situation where all we have going forward is the offline section of the game, which for some games doesn't even exist. Some games are strictly online only. So yeah, those games aren't going to age well because we're not even going to be able to play them. And even for the games that are focused online but have that offline component, a lot of times they're made by completely different teams or, just de-emphasized in some way. But yeah, sometimes it's a completely different team working on them and it's clearly this secondary effort and it's just, it's not great. All that being said, I will still play some games that are online only, but I do it knowing that the game is not going to be around in a few years. Which kind of sucks because it kind of feels like this flavor of the month situation where you're just sort of playing something that's trendy. But that being said, it is a part of gaming and I am interested in it. But yeah, I mean, given the choice, I prefer playing something that's going to age well and that I'm going to want to play years and years down the line. Alright, so enough about what doesn't age well. Let's talk about what does age well. And one of the easiest ways to pick this out, and you might know where I'm going with this, is to just pick something that's already a classic, but just got updated in some way. For example, Majora's Mask. This is one of the most loved Zelda games, and they basically just redid it, but made the visuals a little nicer. So yeah, that's basically a slam dunk for a game that's going to age well. Now, if that feels like kind of a cheap answer, which even I'll admit it kind of was, let's go one step up from there with a remake. Let's say the Doom remake. Now, this is a completely brand new game. It's based off the Doom franchise, but if the original Doom has aged well and is considered a classic game, then why can't this one be? I mean, it does all the same great things that the original one did, but just in a more modern way. So yeah, I think this is one of those games that could be fun playing years down the road. However, sometimes games in the same series don't always fare so well. Let's take Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U, for example. It's a great game, it's still really playable, but Super Smash Bros. Ultimate on the Switch is more or less the same thing, but just with extra stuff in it. Now, hardcore fans will tell you differently, but the average person who plays this game, this game is basically just the exact same game as that, but with a little bit more added. And therefore there's no point in playing that Wii U game anymore. It's not always clear-cut which games get outdated though by games that come after. For example, Super Smash Bros. Melee. People still play this like crazy because, it's just something about the speed and the way you can edge guard, and there's just a lot of super technical things about it that make it different from games that came after it, so much so that it still gets played competitively in big tournaments. So that's the thing about it. You just really don't know until the future plays itself out and the history of the game becomes what it is and it develops its reputation and all that kind of stuff. Not to mention, games can be outdone not only by games in the same series, but just the same genre or, something like that. Now, here's something that I pay attention to. When I play a new game that I think is really good, I ask myself the question, did this make me experience something that I've never felt before? And if it did, is it something that could easily be replicated? For example, let's take The Last of Us. Now, to me, the gameplay could be replicated, and to some extent it has been, but what really makes this game stand out to me and makes it feel timeless is the storytelling. I mean, I still think that games nowadays, this game came out in 2013, I believe, and you know, all these years later, I still feel like storytelling hasn't caught up to this game. Not that I don't think there aren't other games with great stories, as I definitely do, but as far as the style of the storytelling and just the way that it's told, it really makes it unique and stand the test of time. It actually makes for kind of a fun game in itself, trying to predict which games are going to be considered classics going into the future and building my collection around that. I'm actually kind of a weird collector in that way, where I'm looking to consolidate my collection almost constantly. I do add games, obviously, but I know a lot of collectors only add games and they're never looking to get rid of stuff. It's just you're trying to accumulate as many games as possible. And you know, I say, you know, whatever works for you, do it. But for me personally, I'm always looking to get rid of games. And so with that, I'm always asking myself, is this a game that's going to age well? Am I going to play it in the future? You know, so on and so forth. Obviously, that's just what I do, but of course I would recommend that you all do whatever is going to work best for you personally. With that said, I do want to ask all of you what you think of brand new games when you buy them, just as far as if you're going to hold on to them in the future and if you think it's a game that you're going to want to play down the line and, you know, stuff like that. Am I a weirdo? Am I the only one who thinks about that? Or do you all think about stuff like that too? So anyways, let me know down in the comments and I will see ya in the next video.